New Year's Eve is a time of summation, really. So perhaps a little summation would be appropriate. On Sunday, a confession was made, but in making that confession, there was the opportunity to make a very clear distinction, because it was said, my confession was, that I sometimes argue with God. But it was made very clear that I did not say, I argue with the Tao, or the Dharma, or the will of God, or the purpose of life. Because these are only names for the law of life. And you don't argue with the law, because a law is an abstraction. So when you say that you argue with God, we can ask what that means. But that's just going ahead of ourselves. Because right now, we can clearly see where we are when we still have this question that's looming for us. And that is, what is this Tao, Dharma, will of God? And it takes us back to whenever it was that it was first quoted here. Take all perceptions from the sensual, the ascetic, and the transcendent levels of mind, and bring them to the subtle level of body, speech, and mind. The body of appearances, the speech of vibrations, and the mind of awareness, where they flow down the channels at the side of the spine, male, female, subjective, objective, yin, yang, where they meet at the base of the spine and then rise up the central column to become our thoughts and our deeds. So you might say, and I'm sure you've already gleaned by now, that the question that's being asked is relative to this point, figuratively speaking, at the base of the spine, where the perceptions, the movements of life, and all the laws of life, which basically are duality, meet, collide, and then rise as our thoughts and our deeds. The question that's been asked is, what is this Tao, Dharma, will of God, purpose of life? And that's the meeting place at the base of the spine. The meeting place of the stillness that we attain. The place where it's now and we have nowhere else to be. And the movement in all its forms, but basically duality. Because perceptions, the experiences of life, are brought about by the myriad of laws. But when they enter, they become dual, passing down the columns, male, female, subjective, objective. So basically it's duality. It started as one, but became duality, to meet at the base of the spine. There was a great warrior. He'd served the Shah well, a fearless fighter on the battlefield. But now he was old, and he was in retirement. But he only had one regret. He had no son to carry on his lineage. So at that time of his life, he became very devotional. He went to the temples, he practiced the austerities, and he prayed with all his might for a son. And as fate would have it, his wife became pregnant. But instead of just bearing him a son, she bore twins, a son and a daughter. The son grew up to be like his father, a huge warrior-like man. But the daughter was delicate, beautiful, refined, and he adored her. The father loved his daughter so much, he kept her enclosed in the women's quarters, would not let her out into life, and said he would only marry her to a prince. But of course, the princess was most unhappy. She would walk in the garden with her mother, bewailing her fate, saying, "I just long to be free. When can I be free? Why do I have to be enclosed like this in this..." "Shush, shush, shush, my child," said the mother. "I'll speak to your father about this." So the mother went to the father, the great warrior, and she said, "Husband, your daughter is of marriageable age now, and there are 3 worthy suitors wanting her hand in marriage. Why don't you call them to you and choose the one who is most worthy?" "She has to marry a prince," said the warrior father. But after a little cajoling from the mother, he agreed that he would call the 3 suitors to him and see what happened. So the 3 suitors were duly called, and the first one was brought into the old warrior's presence. And the old warrior said, "Well, what qualifications do you have to marry my beautiful daughter?" And the handsome young man said, "I'm a weaver. I can weave any thread, and in the summertime I will weave silk so that she looks bedecked and beautiful and cool. And in the winter I can weave woolen cloth, and she will be warm and protected." The old warrior smiled, and the young man went off. And the second young man was called. "What qualifications do you have to marry my daughter?" he said. And the second young man said, "Well, I'm a farmer, and I know the ways of the land. I know the language of the animals. I can teach your daughter to find peace with all of nature. I'll take care of her and protect her with the help of all of those creatures of the wild that I have befriended and know how to speak to." The old warrior smiled and nodded, sent him on his way. In came the third young man.